Hey there, welcome back. If you're new here, please subscribe, I'd love to have you. And before I say anything about the actual video itself, I just want to say up front, I've been holding off on doing this because I'm pretty sure it might offend some people, but just know that that's not my intent. This is just my opinion. Feel free to comment, I'd love to have a healthy debate. But with that out of the way, this video is about trans fetish, so fetish within the transgender community as well as people having a fetish for transgender individuals. Now, I personally have been in the alternative lifestyle or fetish community for my entire adult life, maybe a little bit more. Being in the alternative lifestyle helped me enjoy sex for all the years before I actually accepted myself as being transgender. Before, regular sex just was not appealing to me and I couldn't figure it out, and I was lucky enough to discover an alternative lifestyle so that I could make it through. And just in case you're unaware, to fetishize something means to have an irrational obsession, often in a sexual gratification context. But technically you can fetishize basically anything. I could literally sit here for an hour listing off fetishes because it's never ending, whether it be money, balloons, domination, feet, spit, plastic, duct tape. It is an endless list because any object can be fetishized, any person, any body part can be fetishized, and it's generally not something that is explained with logic. It's just something that a person can't help but enjoy and getting gratification from. My list of personal fetishes is super long, but that's not what this video is going to be about. I really wanted to focus on the transgender aspect of it. So one of the biggest topics I've seen come across is about people disliking the whole idea of people who are transgender being fetishized to begin with, which I have to disagree with, though it's definitely a little more complicated, so I'll get into that. First off, there's a really big difference in my mind between the idea of fetishizing someone being transgender, which is something they can't control, versus actually taking action to make someone an object that is not a willing participant. Simply because someone is transgender does not mean that you should fetishize them. That's not the way it works. No fetish ever works like that. Just because you like someone's feet doesn't mean you should go out of your way to question them on it or compliment them in a way that would make them feel uncomfortable. I can personally say I've definitely experienced a lot of people, especially on Facebook, they clearly are messaging you just for that reason, and after they start talking to you, it's clear that they've just turned you into an object and fetishized you, and that is the part of it that I wholeheartedly disagree with, because then you're literally harassing people, and that's not okay no matter what your fetish is. On the flip side, it being a fetish in general and seeking out proper means to satisfy that, I find nothing at all wrong with. So whether that means finding transgender porn or seeking out someone on a dating website that is designed for that, there are plenty of people out there with different unique interests, so I'm almost positive you can find someone who shares the same likes and dislikes that you do. But since I mentioned porn, I'll move on to that aspect of it. So I find nothing wrong with transgender porn as long as all participants are consenting, willing adults. Just like with any porn, I find nothing wrong with it personally, and I see no problem with it in general. Because a niche market exists for so many different fetishes, it's just the way of things that would exist, and I'm not gonna lie and say that I haven't participated in viewing that, because when it boils down to it, both straight porn and gay porn, it's hard for me to put myself into either one of those people's positions. However, with that said, words that are used in the pornography industry should not be used in everyday language. So I've seen a lot of arguments on Facebook over, and trigger warning, words like tranny or she-male, and I don't like those words either, regardless of the fetish. Not something that I personally want to be called, but to each their own. If someone is okay with it, then that's definitely their prerogative, but I think in a community of transgender individuals, those words are not generally acceptable. While in the porn industry, it's kind of just the lay of the land. It's what words are used. Those are the buzzwords that get people to click. But is it offensive out of context? Absolutely. So again, if you're looking for somebody that's into that, use the proper channels. I like FetLife as a website to use. I feel like it's safe-ish, but even with that said, if you're approaching somebody on any website, regardless of whether it's a dating website or not, you should be courteous up front and be polite, ask questions. Don't just assume that because someone's transgender and on an alternative lifestyle website that they're going to be into what you are into. And if you are a transgender individual like me and you are being harassed constantly as I am, it's, I know, frustrating because you're trying to be your authentic self and instead you're being treated like an object. All I can say is block and ignore, especially if they're far away. If they live close to you, then just make sure you are staying safe, have your phone on you at all times, have friends with you, so that you can do everything you can to protect yourself from the harassment, regardless of how into or not into the lifestyle you are. So just to reiterate my final thoughts, I have no problem with transgender being a fetish, I have no problem with transgender porn, and I have no problem with any terminology you want to use, as long as you know the people you are using it with aren't going to take offense to it. But treating every transgender individual like they're the same, like they're an object, that's unacceptable. There are proper channels that exist, use those. And no matter what you're into, just remember, safe, sane, consensual. Thanks guys, bye.